order then at 7 p.m. for the Library Commission. And we'll go ahead and start with the roll call.
Commissioner Koopman.
Here.
Commissioner Hayes.
Here.
Commissioner Morocco.
Here.
Commissioner Walls.
Here.
Commissioner Hall.
Here. And we will do the salute to the flag and have Commissioner Walls lead us this time. Lighted.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And so we'll move to item D to approve the order of agenda. Do we have any comments, changes needed?
So moved, we approve the order of agenda.
Wonderful. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes to approve the order of our agenda. Blue folder items for E.
There are no blue folder items.
Folder items, okay, wonderful. So that will take us to F for the consent calendar. Do we need to remove any of the items from the consent calendar for review?
I'd like to pull the minutes.
Okay. I figured as much.
It's only one thing, that's why I was hesitant.
It's good, it's good to make sure they're correct, yeah. All right, so if I can get a motion to,
So moved to approve the
Thank
consent
you.
calendar without the minutes.
I'll second.
fantastic, all those in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? Wonderful, so then we can go ahead and move to take a look at those meeting minutes from March 4th.
Okay, it's page 4 of the minutes. The first line under item K. It's requested the bylaws from 2005 be agendized.
Ah. Okay.
Good catch.
I did have two corrections.
Oh, thank goodness.
Not the only one.
Under the director's report,
Yes.
they're bullets, so it's a little bit tough, but on page 10, there are two comments that are attributed to me that I don't recall making. The
Okay.
first was Commissioner Walls asked what the benefit of ebook content is.
Oh, thank you. I didn't understand that.
I don't remember that, and I went back through the video and didn't see any or hear anything that pertained to that.
We can strike that.
Because certainly there are many benefits.
There are.
And the other one, Commissioner Walls asked whether tax forms were free. I think
That was actually me.
Right, thank you.
Yeah,
Nice.
I asked that. I gotta tell you, I was reading this going, I don't remember her asking this.
Neither did I, so I'm glad it wasn't just me.
Okay, good.
Okay.
That was all that I had as well.
Any other corrections? Okay.
Do you want to take public comment on that?
Yes, do we have any public comment on the minutes from February? Or any, well, we'll get to the comment section.
There are no attendees or e-comments on this item.
Wonderful, thank you.
I
Okay,
move that we approve the minutes as corrected.
thank you.
I'll second.
You can go. Commissioner Koopman for the second, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Wonderful. Okay, so then at this point in time, we can move to February 5th minutes as well, which are the F2 item.
Huh?
Oh, wait, sorry, I'm still down in the other minutes. Okay, now, do we have any public participation for non-agenda items? Just visiting, okay. And we had no public comment. So we'll go ahead and move to I, items continued from the previous agenda.
Just for the record, there are no e-comments and no attendees for public participation.
Thank you.
And we have no items continued from previous agendas for today.
Okay, so items for discussion prior to action. We will do the director's report first.
Okay. So it's been a pretty busy month. I just wanted to go over a few things that we have listed. We're moving forward with some of the vacant positions. We just closed the recruitment for library page. We got a very good response. Our circulation manager is reviewing those applications and hopes to schedule interviews soon. We conducted interviews and we believe we have some very strong candidates for part-time librarian that we'll be moving forward with. We hope to have names for you next meeting. We're still working with HR regarding the senior librarian position, so that is moving forward. Under archives, I just wanted to give you an update. I spoke to the county and they drafted an MOU that's been approved from the county council side and is now with UCR for review. And if it's amenable to both parties, then they'll sign and start the process hopefully as soon as possible. So that is moving along. In regards to library programming, there are several things, but I definitely wanted to highlight, since there was interest in our National Library Week celebration from April 7th through the 13th. Those are opportunity drawings for people to get involved. And then in addition to that, there should be the flyer for the solar eclipse program. We do have glasses. We don't have enough for everybody, so we have a program and the registration is required to attend that. Any questions about the positions or archives or library programs?
I just had a couple of questions.
Okay.
What is this ICOE California Libraries Broadband Aggregator?
I am glad you asked that question. I don't know how familiar folks are with this, but the library, many libraries, public libraries, years ago got on a network called Scenic, and Scenic provides high-speed broadband internet services for educational facilities, colleges, schools, what have you. So the state library negotiated with Scenic to provide the same high-speed internet access for public libraries because in support of education. The way it works is the state library reimburses the funds, but they contract with an aggregator because an aggregator is kind of a third party that works with local ISPs to garner that high-speed internet access, because even though we have the facilities and technology and equipment, we still need the service, just like your home internet, right? So we were notified, I think at the end of last year, that the aggregator we had was taking up their option to discontinue service. So the state library had to quickly identify a third-party aggregator. They did the RFP process, and that group that you see there, the ICOE, is an aggregator that will hopefully be providing a service. We have an agreement with City Attorney's Office that's reviewing that agreement. And if that agreement is approved, then we'll bring it to council, hopefully under consent, and bring that item forward to continue the high-speed internet access. We have been looking at different options. Our contract, our agreement with Scenic ends in July 2026. So when we get a little bit closer to that, we'll take a look and see if it's still benefiting us as much as it did 10, 15 years ago. I was at another library when we initiated that. It was a great deal for libraries. The speed was a great deal for us. Now the market's got a little bit more competitive with streaming, so we'll reevaluate it with the city's IT department, probably in early 2026. Any questions? Any other questions?
I have a question. For the solar eclipse, you said there's a craft?
Oh, it's you have to register for it. And I have to bring up the flyer. Unfortunately, we allowed our youth
in the
services
packet.
librarian to take a vacation, so they weren't here today to consult with, but they did make the flyer. I think it's just an event. I don't know if there's a craft associated with it. Oh, okay, sorry. I think they're going to be making those boxes that you can utilize to still see the eclipse without the glasses.
Whole cameras.
So, I mean, I realize there's a limited number of glasses, but maybe if you do the craft, you can open it up to more than 40 people.
Okay.
Because it is the first day of spring break. And I do feel like there would be a lot of people, if you just had, I mean, I'm even looking right now, all we need is cardstock, aluminum foil, scissors, tape, and a pin or a needle. Or a hole punch, because I remember that's what I did one year.
Okay.
With a hole punch. I just think I remember the last time there was a solar eclipse, there were easily 100 people in that meeting room, that large meeting room, especially on the deck.
Okay.
I mean, they weren't all on the deck, obviously. I'm hoping that can happen, because I think because of last time, people are gonna come here.
Yeah. Well, definitely, I will consult with our youth services librarian, see if we can open up more slots and see what we can do.
I mean, if it's a matter of getting the items, I mean, I don't know if this is the best way to make a solar eclipse glasses, but if it is, I mean, I can help get with it, some of that stuff, so.
We will follow up on that tomorrow.
Okay,
I would imagine even like friends of the library could help if you need more supplies and things like that.
Yeah,
The pinhole cameras, like you said, it's not very expensive for the
Right.
supplies.
Right.
yeah, at minimum, I remember we'd had 2 pieces of cardstock and a hole punch, and all you had to do was look at the shadow from the first layer to the second layer. You don't obviously make them look
Right.
up.
Right. Definitely.
Is there a way to get like a video feed into that main room while the event's going on? So people can watch it progress and.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely talk to staff about that. I would have to double check on the meeting room availability, but we can definitely investigate that for sure.
Oh, where is it gonna be held? Where's this one?
I think they are not going to hold it upstairs, and I think part of that is logistics because the library opens at 11, and due to the fact that they have to set up the library, and I know some staff will get here a little early, so I think they're going to hold it outside and in front of the library. But I also know there are a lot of different things that can occur, cloud cover, the best place to view it. And so I think it's going to be fluid, but I think they had decided to have it either outside the front of the library or on the grassy part of the library in front of Carnelian and PCH. But Hilaire, I think, does an amazing job, her and her team, coordinating these things. And, they know the bandwidth that they have. And I'll have to check with her and see how many we have signed up already. So that could be an indicator as well. If we can open it up to more folks, we will.
Yeah, if this is limited to 40 people,
Yeah.
do you have contingency plans if it overflows?
Well, like I said, depending on the craft, if we get the equipment, we can see if we can create more boxes or more materials for the young people to create those boxes. I do know with the agency that provides the free glasses, because they're providing them for libraries all over the country, they don't have an unlimited supply. I think that's approximately how much they were able to provide us with.
And are you going to have people specifically walking around to make sure like little kids don't look straight up into there?
I think we'll do our best to make sure that
I
doesn't
mean, it's a
happen.
liability issue, it's a sponsoring.
I think part of the reason why I wear these is because I looked up in the 70s accidentally, but I agree. I think we'll provide as the best instruction as possible for them. I think it's challenging, certainly, but we've had the Eclipse programs before, and they've done well.
Are the glasses only available to the people that attend the craft event, or are they available in advance?
They're only available for this particular event, and that's a good question because we again, we don't have an unlimited supply. We have gotten calls and we've been trying to find places that might make those glasses available. And unfortunately, April 9th, they become much less valuable. But, we could try hanging on to them. I know that prior to COVID, we didn't have as much of a concern, but certainly, this year we anticipate, people might not be as willing to share the glasses, that sort of thing. So, but we unfortunately don't have enough to give out. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't have enough for the program. So we do have to keep that number. Any other questions about, I have some other stuff to go over, but anything about programs?
I was curious, just back to the vacant positions, if you are still planning, I know we've gone back and forth a little bit about the senior librarian position.
Yeah, we're evaluating that position, the job duties, and, what job description best describes the job, as Erin did a fantastic job, but it kind of changed over time. And so I just want to make sure that the job description best reflects the duties. And, we will go through the normal process if we need to change the job description or anything related to it. But, Aaron and Karen did a lot. And they made it look easy, which is tough.
So at this time, there's not a time frame on when that position would get posted?
No, it's one of those other things that we're working on. We're juggling a lot of priorities right now. Open Plus, I was at North this morning and I was up in the ceiling trying to reboot the hardware. There's a connectivity issue, so we had hoped to have a test run, but there were a couple of things kind of precluding that. IT and myself will be at North again tomorrow to try to troubleshoot that network connection, because we have the software where we can set up the schedule. It's just that when we went to start it, the software is not recognizing the control panel. So these are reasons why we try to obviously troubleshoot before we launch. But we did get the cameras installed. We got the signs up notifying folks that there are security cameras in the building. We're also working with Public Works to install a timer so that the lights will come on automatically, which I feel is important. We were just going to put a sign up that says, please, when you come in, if you're the first person, flip the lights up. We decided it wasn't a good idea because those lights are in the staff area, light switches at least. So we hope to have that timer installed by the end of the week. And if we can get the network issue resolved tomorrow, hopefully, we hope to test it soon. I'm sorry it's not happening sooner, but again, we're juggling a lot of different things, and we did not anticipate the network issue because we were pretty much ready to turn it on. Tim had scheduled the software, and then for some reason that control panel is not talking to the network. So we can set it up in the scheduling software, but the access control pad is not talking to the network for some reason. And I don't know, I don't know how extensive that is. I don't know. I won't know till tomorrow when we have IT and myself there to kind of troubleshoot and find out why it's not connecting to the network. But it's always fun when you can get up in the ceiling and start restarting computers. I'm sorry, but the interesting thing is, I guess, according to the design specs or the installation specs, because the company, the software originated in Europe, they put the CPU up in the ceiling and some, like at least a foot or so above the ceiling tiles. Here in the States, we probably could have put that a little bit lower so we wouldn't be climbing up on the ladder. But right now it's a little hard to get to, but hopefully we'll solve it tomorrow. It's my hope, and then we can test it. We can hopefully have a more robust update. Any questions on Open Plus?
Will you be needing guinea pigs to actually operate?
Absolutely. And I was hoping our commission could volunteer. to test
We would
that.
be
So
happy to be guinea pigs.
Excellent.
Just tell us when to show up.
we'll do. I'll send an email. I'm cautiously optimistic, but having a few setbacks, I hate to put out a date, but we're much closer. If we can solve this network issue, then we'll be ready to go. Any questions? The other thing that the library has been working on is that the city as a whole is migrating to electronic timesheets. It's a system called ESS. I should say that all the payroll is electronic, but the library's been doing the actual paper timesheets for quite a while. So over the last couple of weeks, we've been working hard to train all of our staff on ESS and also our supervisors and our timekeepers on the process. In fact, Becca attended training last week. She promised it was easy, so I trust her. But this pay period will be the last pay period that we're doing paper timesheets, and we'll migrate to ESS. But we're happy. We appreciate the support from the finance department and payroll. They've been amazing. And, I know there'll be some hiccups, obviously, because it's new for everybody, but it'll be much more efficient for staff, hopefully, in the department. But that's been something else that we've been working on. And then we continue to work with Overdrive on an agreement. We've been kind of going back and forth. The service is still available, but the contract and negotiations have been back between city attorney and their legal team. But I feel pretty confident we'll have something in place soon. Any questions? I was going to take a look. Was there anything else that you wanted to address in the director's report or talk about? Yeah.
I wanted to make a comment that our digital circulation is, other than one area, is leaps and bounds over last year's numbers. And I'm wondering about Hoopla. I don't know if I'm the only person that knows this possibly, but I know we're limited and we pay, I believe, like so many downloads. The library pays for so many downloads per patron per month.
Right.
Are we needing to increase that number, or are we okay?
I think we're okay, but we've been investigating that as well. The two systems that work off a credit system, and I should use the term credit as for maybe token or something, because I don't want to get it confused with credit and debit transactions, but they're limited to the number of, I guess, tokens or items you can utilize, is Hoopla and Canopy. So we're looking very hard at both of those. I think if we were to go in a direction, it would be increasing the access. We have not heard any complaints from folks, but they're highly utilized. And if we can budget for it, we'd like to increase that limit.
So in terms of the Hoopla number, just for February, it says 2597. Is that 2597 patrons or 2597 views or downloads or whatever?
It should be transactions.
Transactions.
Yes.
Okay. That's still quite a lot of number. That's quite a high number. And it's 6, is it 5 or 6 you said per patron?
I think it's 6. I'd have to take a look at the numbers again.
Okay.
The other thing working to schedule is hopefully in the near future at a commission meeting coming to you soon is presentations from each of the managers on their departments. I know Hilaire talks about summer reading, but I thought it would be valuable if she went into a little more detail about how they schedule programs, what programs they schedule, their selection process. Our circulation manager, Mario Adam, he will be coming in and doing a presentation on circulation. I think that would be important. And then Tim Parker, our technical services librarian, it'd be a great opportunity to ask all these questions about our resources, and he'd have hopefully much more robust answers for you. But I think those will be very informative and educational. Anything else? Any other questions?
I guess just related to Hoopla, because I know last meeting we talked about that you were having some discussions about consolidating for ebooks either to Overdrive, Libby, Cloud Library, or Hoopla.
Mm-hmm.
Did we kind of land anywhere on that, or we're still?
We haven't done a formal survey, but we do, when talking to staff that interacts with patrons on platforms, the most popular service is Libby. People come in and everybody seems to know Libby. Hoopla is a little different in that that's a service where the materials are on demand, so you can have simultaneous use. That's kind of exclusive with Hoopla. The challenges, Cloud Library or Libby in regards to our e-content. So, but I'll just say that when we interact with our patrons, if they know a provider, it's Libby. Not too many are familiar with Cloud Library, but they both have access to the same publishers and content, and the costs are pretty much the same. So there's no economic efficiency with one or the other. Both also have the ability to share libraries. So in Cloud Library, you can be on a network where the materials will show up from other libraries as long as they're not currently checked out. With Libby, if you have, let's say, a county library card, you can simply add that library card in addition to your Redondo Beach card. And so that's a similar type of service, but acts a little differently.
Yeah, I guess my question is, what are the next steps that are needed to determine if you're going to try to consolidate to one versus the other?
Right. So, once we make a decision, we would talk with the vendor, and the vendor can. There's a lot of detail that Tim will have to get from our database, but as I understand it, whatever vendor we decide to go with, we'll be able to take that content and migrate it to their platform. So we'll retain access to all the material that we purchased, in addition to whatever sort of limitations. If they have a circulation limitation, it'll carry over those credits. And also if there's I don't want to say subscription, but if the title expires at a certain time, that information will come over. The only thing that won't transfer over are the holds. So we'd want to notify people as soon as possible that if and when we migrate, that they'll have to replace those holds. The staff would be more than happy to assist people in that. But that would be only a challenge. But it's pretty exciting that we could migrate libraries, and it would not cost us anything other than staff time in compiling that database of resources.
Right.
Maybe I missed this discussion in the past, but you have an offsite program in December that brings in over 2,000 participants. What program is that?
That's a number our youth services librarian utilizes for when they do outreach to like a back to school night. I don't have right in front of me what the event was, but when they do outreach to schools, especially like a back to school or an open house, there's a considerable number of folks there, and they're what they do is they consult with the school and say how many people and their parents and other family members. So that's usually what they put down, and we're pretty confident that's a good number when they visit a school.
So it's one program, or is it multiple programs with a cumulative number?
I believe that's one, but when we can put a pen
Trying
in
to
that and
remember,
check
because I feel like
she did
they
explain
talked
that
about
to
it
us, yes.
here, about what the event was, and it was something, I think, at the high school,
Right.
but I don't know if they also did it at other schools or if it was just.
I don't know. It shows up in
School.
2022 and also in 2023. So
Yeah.
I did have a question still about the digital circulation and the consolidation. Do we know if any of the platforms have better or worse access to multilingual materials, in as much as we've got a bit of a focus on that right now to try to expand our collection?
Yeah, I do believe from meeting with the vendors that Libby has a little bit more robust access to those materials, and primarily because Libby is Overdrive and Overdrive is Amazon. So they do have much more robust access to international languages. The other item that's nice about that is that Libby also is our primary service provider for digital magazines and periodicals, and they also have multilingual purchase options.
Thank you.
Any other questions for me?
Is the History Day still happening Saturday, April 27th?
Oh, yeah, thank you, thank you. I'm recruiting staff volunteers to do outreach at the city's birthday. So we're coordinating with staff. I have a couple of individuals in mind, but I don't want to mention them until I get a confirmation from them. I don't know if they have plans, but we do plan on being at the event promoting our library resources in addition to our digital archives and getting people signed up for library cards.
It's still on the 27th, though. I sent
It's at the
I sent you the flyer on it.
Yes, yes,
so-
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I didn't see that in the events on the library page for April. I don't know if we can get that added.
Yeah, I mean, we can do that. Last year, what we did was sent out, and maybe we'll touch on this when we get to marketing, but last year when Gary Margolis reached out to us regarding the event, I told him that in addition to posting the flyers, we could do a separate email blast, which we'll work on. It's pretty easy since he's already put together the flyer. And then we can do a separate email blast letting people know about the event. And it would be great if there was, we could ask the staff that are doing outreach to try to do this on an informal basis, but great to hear how many people that attend that event that heard about it from our library promotion.
I think my only other than follow-up was about the full year budget. I know when we talked last meeting, we were said, I have my note here, more info will be given in April if you need a letter from us.
Not at this time. We just concluded the mid-year budget. As far as the library is concerned, I don't want to speak for the finance department. I know that they are actively working on preparing next year's fiscal year calendar budget. I hope to have some more information for you soon. I can send you an email update on that. I don't have any more recommendations as far as a letter at this time.
Okay, because typically it's July 1st that we would need to
Right.
have submitted that for. So just timeline-wise, if we decide the commission needs to do a letter, I think we'd want to do that at the next meeting, just to give us enough time to have a subcommittee write it, review it in June, and then have it ready for July. Okay. We'll circle back.
I thought it was in May that they actually start proposing it to the council. That's what they did
Commissioner
last
Koopman, do you
year.
have timeline-wise? I feel like we've normally had it ready for July, but do we do it?
I do feel like July may be a little late.
Okay.
Let me look real quick. I'm just looking at old budget letters that I have.
Right.
Last one I have from last year is dated, it was modified in March. So somewhere, and it has a March date. This is March XX. So I think around that time.
I think they do vote on it in May, and because I think the fiscal year starts July 1.
Yes, absolutely. So I think they're trying to get that prepared. We're working on a lot of different projects. I don't have all the information available to actually for a letter. For example, the camera system we would like to install, it's a one-time. The facility remodel for the changing tables. There's several other things, but I need to have the actual budget numbers before we can put that into a letter at this time.
Yeah, I see, because we talked about those two things, discussing fine-free again, the potential funding for a self-checkout station. So there's definitely a number of things that we discussed. Do you want to put together a subcommittee just so that it's set with this meeting, and then you could maybe get them that information this month so that then we can look it over in May
We
instead?
can definitely do
Okay.
that.
Do we have any volunteers that would be interested in helping to do a letter to the council?
Are you the one who develops the budget, or is it completely?
It's typically the finance department with input from both the department and commissions. I know that the city manager likes to meet with the commissions, and we're taking a look at that time frame now because I think what we might be looking at between now and publication of the budget, because of the way our meetings fall, we might be looking at possibly a special meeting, but I have no dates yet set for this room, so I don't know what's available. And then it would also have to be contingent on commissioners' schedule as well as the city manager's schedule. I think last year we had it as the budget input separate from the letter. We had that as an agenda item last year around this time, but you know, the information as far as the progress of the budget, you know, I received after the agenda was put together, so I couldn't put it on this meeting's agenda. So if the room is available and if we can coordinate with the city manager's office and we can have a special meeting, then that would be the time we could talk about some of these things that we had discussed before, like fine free, the installation of cameras, and the restroom remodel. I know there's a few that I'm forgetting because we've been working on a lot of different things.
So I think Commissioner Koopman can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but so in the past, when the commission has written letters to the council for budget requests, we have done a subcommittee, and then I think that subcommittee can work just virtually with you. So I don't know that you necessarily need to have a special meeting unless you felt like that was necessary. But in the past, I think, you know, the director would send kind of a draft of like, here's the things that we are kind of have at the top of our mind that we would like to get funding for. And then the subcommittee was able to kind of draft a letter based off of that.
Okay.
And they usually would go back and forth. So the director would see it and make any suggestions or
Right.
changes, and then it would come to the full commission.
Do you have an example of what you guys did last year, maybe?
I have, last year's letter was asking for money to add to the digital collection, the juvenile collection, and with a particular emphasis on the world languages, right? That's what it was last year. In years past, we've always also done a little paragraph about increasing money for FTEs. We know they'll never be honored, but more just, we want to keep saying that we want more staff here. So that's one of the.
I want to add also, I believe there was a letter written to increase the operational hours, which actually was accomplished, which was a big.
It's how we got the funding for Open Plus too. We did a letter to
Yes.
request that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
So
that they
I'd be happy
usually
to
try,
meet-
I mean, I feel like we usually do get, you know,
Yeah.
some of the things that we ask for. So I think it's a worthwhile process.
I'd be happy to work with a subcommittee.
Yeah, it sounds like, I just want to make sure timeline wise we're good. So when would that letter have to go to the council to be considered for the annual budget?
I feel like it should be soon.
Yeah, I would say within the next 30, 40 days, probably.
Are you having another strategic plan meeting between now and the?
Not to my knowledge. I mean, it could be, I haven't seen that.
Because I think at some point that gets incorporated into what they put in the next budget. And I don't know, I haven't seen at least anything where the strategic plan elements come to this commission to analyze and see how we can fit the stuff into that plan.
I mean, I think that's a good question, and maybe, you know, Susan did that before. I think that over the last few years, there haven't been library items on that unless the expanding the hours was on a previous strategic plan.
Yeah, I
But-
think we kind of got the strategic plan funneled to us, I think, through the
Right.
director, since they
Right.
would have the knowledge about that, yeah.
But,
Right.
but I
And
think
you're
the,
right. We did get, I haven't seen a strategic plan in a few, at least a year or so.
and I think at the council meeting, they discussed the fact that on the revenue side, that the city is not bringing in as much revenue. And I know a lot of the monies that came in for the last couple of years came from that refinancing of the pension obligation.
Right.
So the time of having all this money available may have dried up, but I don't know. I mean, you're in these meetings with the city managers, so you should probably.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think all that will be presented to council, but it's always a good idea to investigate ways to, improve service. So even if the letter is just to get it on their radar, then that's worthwhile.
Exactly. Okay, so timeline-wise, it seems like if we have a subcommittee that we appoint tonight, then they could have the month to write the letter, they could present it to us at the May meeting, and then we could approve it and that gets
Right.
you in the 30 to 40 days, 40 days
And then,
to submit it to
yes, and
council.
then I would say we have these other things, but even as we've said in previous budget letters, even if it's to basically, for lack of a better phrase, do a COLA, all the items and everything we buy is just, for personally, what they say, milk and eggs have gone up considerably. So, but the typical resources we buy, we're getting less bang for our dollar. So I think that'd be an option for the committee, something I could talk to the subcommittee about too.
Great. Do we have any volunteers
volunteer
for
if you
subcommittee?
need.
Great, I'm happy to do it as well. Do we have, I think 2 is fine, but a third would also be great if anyone's interested.
And I cannot right now.
No, okay,
My
totally fine.
schedule won't
And you
allow.
guys are already doing the marketing subcommittee too, so.
You can volunteer, Commissioner Willis.
You're not here, you got volunteered. I think the 2 of us is probably fine. And I have some copies of old letters as well that I've worked on in the past. So, but I think the next step would probably be if you want to put together just something that you send to the 2 of us for what your top things would be, and then we can start drafting.
Definitely.
So are there things that you either would ask for but haven't because the budgets have been flat? I'm trying to understand what
Well, there
additional
are
things we might.
Yeah, I mean, there are things
Supporting
that
here.
aren't, necessarily as flashy, but are definitely needed. It might be a one-time cost. For example, our PA system went out last year, and I know IT's been working hard on trying to fix that, but it looks like we might have to purchase a new system. It's just very interesting because people would think, oh, the library, it's quiet. Why would you need a PA system? But you'd be surprised. Our announcements, everything from standard announcements to, fortunately we haven't had it, but if there was a lost child, what have you, the PA system comes in handy.
Urgency in general.
Yeah. So I know that they've been
Safety
working.
issue.
Sorry to interrupt, but I know they've been working really hard on fixing it and putting something together as far as a cost, but that might be something I have to consult with the IT director on where that's landed. But it hasn't been for a lack of trying, because I know they've been trying, but I know the last time I spoke with staff there, they were getting closer to saying we might just have to get a new system.
Do you also pay honorariums to speakers? I know we have like tons of authors that come into the library to speak. Do they get paid a stipend or something?
It's something I'm really proud of our friends. Amy requested some funding from the Friends of the Library specifically for adult programs. And as I understand it, it's the first time she's had a small budget for honorariums. And she's working on scheduling some music performances and some other talks and activities that honestly she wouldn't be able to accomplish without something. They're not extraordinary. they just compensate, for basically gasoline and, for, a person's time, but we do. We went to the Friends, I think it was 2 months ago, and requested some funding for adult programming, specifically for those types of things. We're pretty excited about what we're going to be able to program for the library in the summer and fall. But, she did all of that programming for years, just, the kindness of people's heart. And it's nice, but, we want to be respectful, especially of people that are performing and that sort of thing. It's difficult and challenging.
So I think we do need a motion to approve the subcommittee with you and I on it.
I motion that.
Wonderful. Can we get a second?
second that.
Okay. All those in favor?
Public comment.
Any public comments on this?
Oh, I guess, yes, I need public comment.
We do have a member of the public.
We
here.
do have a member of the public.
Very exciting.
I can never get them to work either.
There are no e-comments or attendees for this item.
You keep hoping one of
Thank
these
you.
days. there's gonna be one, right?
You can recruit people.
So all those in
I thought you
favor
wanted to
of
talk about
passing the motion for the subcommittee, including Commissioner Morocco and myself?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. All right. Anything else from the director's report?
Any other questions?
Mine's for staff referrals.
Okay, we'll get there. All right, so then we just need a motion to receive and file the director's report.
I'll second. Beat you.
Fight between it. And all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, so that takes us to J2, discussion and possible action on library marketing subcommittee report.
I think I'll speak to that one.
Great.
So I met in March, I forget the exact date, 22nd or something, with Dana, Amy Fuller, we were talking about as the adult library services manager, and then Hilaire. And we at the last meeting, it was provided a bunch of kind of background of what was available, what they were using, et cetera, et cetera. So we sat down and talked about kind of like, basically, what are your goals? And what's available or what's the goals right now, what's the goals long-term, and the usual kind of questions when you're trying to figure out what we want to do. And obviously, there's manpower issues and a lot of other stuff that comes into play. It's interesting because the summer reading program is the best program, so it probably needs the least amount of promotion because it's the most successful. And then that led us to a bunch of other discussions. So it was decided that probably the best first next step is to increase and work on the newsletter. The newsletter that accomplishes two different things, because the newsletter, first off, can help us long-term in terms of promoting other programs, et cetera. So Dana had brought in the newsletter. Right now, we have about 14,000 signups. But, when they send out the monthly blast, they get 51% open rate, which is great. That's really good.
However, they get 15 views, which means people see it. A view is counted by if you go down a certain length of, let's say, if it's this long, you have to go down this long. So if only 15 people out of 8,000 viewed it, and of that, there were 21 unique clicks. So it was discussed, well, the design isn't working. So that's one aspect. But the other question was, what can we do to increase, first off, two-pronged attack. What can we do to increase the signups? And then how do we make sure that when they sign up, they're getting a better engagement opportunity? So increasing the signups was discussed for a number of different things. And I did a follow-up email to Dana, but it is lost in spam somewhere. So, but some of the ideas we talked about were having flyers in the library with a QR code saying, are you signed up for the newsletter? On the receipt checkout, when you
get when you need to return it, have something there. Have a sign-up card at the front desk where people could just write their email addresses on, so we make it easy for them. And then on the website right now, the newsletter sign-up is under events, and move it to the homepage. It also, I realized when I went back on, I bookmarked the old site. And so when I get there, it still works. And so there's nothing new on, it's not the new site. And so there's no newsletter sign up. So I imagine a lot of people are like me where I've got it bookmarked. So we have to capture them a different way. So sorry.
One quick question.
Yeah?
Sorry about, I'm just like mulling over that stat. That's such a weird, like 51% open rate, but only 15 reads.
Well,
It opens in the email window. So
Right.
is that what's the open rate? But then they'd have to click maybe through something in the newsletter from their email window for it to be a read receipt?
So what happens is, let's say you get the newsletter and it comes right now, it's a bunch of the flyers, it's all there. And I think people will probably look at one and be like, this is a bunch of ads. There isn't like any words to kick it off like, hey, we've got some great programs, look below, and the intro. So it's not the most appealing.
There's no summary at the top.
I get it, yeah.
So I'll circle back to that, your question, because that's kind of the second.
Right?
So now we
And
got
then if
another.
Yeah, it just doesn't have, so
Flyers, yeah.
if it's 10 flyers and you only look at 3, you don't count. Like you
But
have
I'm
to get,
actually almost wondering if this is what's counting as the open,
no.
but it won't count it as a
No.
read? No, so
No.
no
So
matter what,
when-
all those stats are
Yeah.
coming straight
So
from.
if you-
I can't even click on it.
So in March, they sent out a newsletter to 14,454 people. 8,469 opened it. So they opened it, and that's unique opens, not total. So if you go back twice, like if you open it again, it will not count you again as a unique.
Okay.
However, you don't get counted unless you scroll down.
With these scrolling.
So we'll circle back on that. But one of the questions was we said, well, why would you want to sign up? What's the incentive? What does the newsletter do for me? Right now, it doesn't do very much for us. So we would, in our promotions about why you want to sign up, we're going to give you notice of events and easy access to sign up. There'll be a monthly drawing of a prize, for instance, like $100 from Starbucks or Peter's Gardens, Hennessy's, so that there's an incentive to be part, and not just for
All the way to the
signups.
bottom to get it.
Not just for the signups, but for everybody who's in the newsletter database. Then another idea was to go to solicit, like go to Peter's Gardens or Hennessy's or whatever and say, hey, we're looking for some gift cards and we want to give you a sticker to put as Friends of the Library to kind of promote that they're part of our network. So it's kind of a multi-pronged approach that builds awareness of this, that we have a newsletter and that it's fun once we get there. And then finally, we would do a thank you poster for the donors, logo and name for each month in the library. So that is one idea. Obviously, the lower hanging fruit is we just asked Friends of the Library to give us $25, but this is kind of more fun and more engagement. So then the question is, okay, we are building this newsletter, and this actually should be the first strategy, which is we have to look at creating a better engagement opportunity and format. And what I've learned from Dana is that the current setup is through LibraryAware, if I'm not, and they, like, even when you sign up on the newsletter for, like, I signed up for, like, tell me what the best sellers are coming, and if you guys get those notices, those are all created from LibraryAware. The ones that are created by, or the staff here are the ones with the flyers, but that also is done through LibraryAware. So the question is, what can we talk to LibraryAware and see how can we improve our design process? What like example, March Madness, could we have sent out something with top 10 books or something fun for March Madness, stuff like that. So the next step on that one is that Dana has to, first off, he has to talk to the You want to make sure what the rules of the city as far as what we can promote, what we can't, and then have a discussion with Library Aware to say, how can we make this better?
Do we pay for Library Aware?
And that's what he would say is there's other companies like this, so, tell us how to make this better within the staff that we have available. And, because it is impressive that we have 50% open rate. But, it also, this has not grown, in 4 months, this hasn't grown. So we need to keep growing the database. So there's two-pronged approach. I think the first one you can't do, where I was talking about how do we build the number until we get the newsletter improved as far as engagement opportunities.
One thing I was just thinking as you were going through this is people are very into the Easter, we just got through Easter, but the Easter egg concept, the hidden meaning concept, or finding tips or tricks, or maybe some incentive to find the hidden phrase that relates to a library, event or something like that.
Well, that's the other thing right now, that all that comes out is if there's a Gardner, like a program or that list of flyers, there's nothing else in between.
Yeah.
And so, to your point of creating some more fun engagement and, why do I want to open this newsletter? I'm going to see something fun like a weekly trivia question, stuff like that, like something other than just the flyers. So, and the flyers are great, but do we need to send them all out in one giant?
I get overwhelmed when I open it and look at it and say, okay, there's a bunch of things that are happening at the library. That's great. Granted, we don't have young children at the home, so I don't look at them all that much, but it is just it's a lot. And
then the other thing is, I get asked all the time, what's the most important thing in a newsletter design? I'm like, the subject line and the pre-header are equally as important to the design. You have 3 seconds to capture somebody's attention.
Right.
And they'll decide whether they're going to open or not based on that subject line and that pre-header. And then when they get to the design, they're like, oh, this is nice.
Yeah.
So you have these people who are loyal to you and 50% are opening it. So I think that, those you're doing well on, but there is that loss of there's no reason for me to look further. So
I get the LA City one as well. And the timing of the two, I get the LA City one usually first. And it's like, where's my Redondo one for it? And I also get the Huntington, which is even more impressive than the LA City one. But LA City one goes on and on. One of the pieces you didn't mention is pictures from the events actually re-engage people.
Yeah.
So your newsletter can talk about future events, but it also can bring in some pictures about like the solar eclipse
That's a
thing,
great
for
idea.
example.
Yeah.
You can have pictures of everybody over there, and it kind of says, okay, I'm going to open it up and I can actually see, or maybe have a link into a gallery of it. You have a library Facebook page. It wouldn't hurt to have a link on the newsletter to the Facebook page. Then you get the click that you're looking for, and you go beyond that. Nice pen, by the way.
I think it's at the bottom. Am I wrong about that? I thought it did link to both the Facebook and the Instagram at the bottom of it.
Well, but he was saying for the photos, like if you.
Yes, true, yeah.
So again, I think, there's a lot of opportunities here to use the newsletter as more of the vehicle driving stuff and make it interactive and, use it for more than just announcements. And so I think the next steps is for you to talk to the city and then talk to, and I said in my email you didn't get, I'd be happy to meet with you, be on the call with Library Aware, but figure out what is available to us, because I'm sure there's other options.
I did reach out to Library Aware. They responded, and as soon as we're able to schedule an overview with them, we'll do it. I should also say that Amy and Hilaire work on their department's program flyers. We do have a staff member that works really hard. She's part-time, and she compiles the newsletter. And I think, honestly, I do think it's a lot to scroll through. At the same time, I understand how that originated because, they put everything in together at once. They wanted to give people enough notice for the programs. And I think timing wise, if it were not overwhelming, which I think, again, there's a lot of content, which is kind of good for us. We're putting out a lot of events, but, it's a little bit of, as you said, as far as the workforce, we don't necessarily have one person dedicated to putting the newsletter that doesn't have other jobs and duties to do. So that's part of the challenge as well. But I think getting some feedback from Library Aware as far as what's possible, and I'm sure they, I don't want to say assume, but they may have some feedback as far as a better design.
Well, I also think, some of it's the cadence, that this is only coming out once a month, unless there's a program. To your point, like have something like a trivia Thursday. Every Thursday there's a trivia question, or something that could be related to Easter, or something that's topical. Something that's fun also, that you're used to getting it on a set time, and you can queue those up months ahead of time. So it's not like, I think designing a newsletter takes a lot, but putting a simple kind of cute question and like 2 photos together isn't backbreaking as much.
Right.
Well, and once you have the design done, you don't have to then you just
Yeah.
plug and play every month with that
Well,
same
there's a
design,
format
really.
that, like if you have a template, and you could create probably a couple different ones. Trivia Thursday could be something, cool with images and questions, or, so flashback, how you did the history thing, like the flashback stuff.
They do a Throwback Thursday
That's what
currently on Facebook. So, I mean, that could be also replicated in the newsletter. So already putting that together.
I have a question. Is it possible to ask Library Aware what type of design templates they're actually creating? Like, is most of it, let's say we call them and say, what's the most common template you're being asked to design? If it's 20% Instagram, 30%, you see what I'm saying? If I'd be curious to know what their media is.
Well, I don't think they're designing it. I think it's, it's like you go in and Microsoft and select a template.
It's just the
this plug and play
distribution
type thing.
right?
Yeah, Library Aware is like Constant Contact. There's a few others that are like that. But one of the advantages to Library Aware is that I believe, I had to double check this, but I think it works with speaks to our ILS. So we had a lot of other good ideas. I think we were going to work on creating a welcome email for people that sign up for their cards, and then have that a link for the newsletter. One of the other challenges, not a big challenge, but certainly we have folks that are signed up that are receiving account information. And then we have people that have signed up for marketing information, and we have to, obviously be cognizant of those that want to opt in and opt out, and make it as easy as possible for them to do both.
So I guess next steps, I'm gone for the next meeting, but, if you meet with Library Aware, and we can obviously talk off campus.
Yes.
Out of here. But, that's to hear like more of what they've gotten, what's available to us. Could we do a monthly raffle? I got to imagine we can. And could we create a program that goes out to the community and stuff like that? I love the idea of, having, in the window of Hennessy's or these stores. I support the library type of stickers.
I don't know where they are, but a few years ago, we used to have posters, with the QR code that would go to I think to the sign up page, and we put them in Starbucks and a couple coffee shops around town. I don't know if those are still around.
Well, I had to take them down, unfortunately, because the QR code went to the old URL. So
It's probably not going to work anymore.
But I do think it's a good idea, and we have to update those QR codes. But I think that creating some promotional flyers in different formats so they can easily be displayed at different places would probably be a good idea.
We could also potentially have that be a standard part of events. So when we have programming and people come to the library, always have that poster there, or at least a, postcard or something to.
Just to make it easy,
signups.
to go to the library, to go to the website, even when we do move it to the homepage, it is a step that we could easily just do right there. So it makes it easy.
Has everybody signed up for our newsletter? everybody's getting
I was gonna
good.
say, I'm probably one of the 15 that scrolls the whole thing every month.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we're
It's
number
a
one and
lot
number
of
two.
scope.
I compare LA to you guys all the time.
Whereas I think if, I don't know how easy it would be, but I certainly know when we do a blast for a special event like we did with the Water Replenishment District, I think we got a lot of response. And I don't know if it's on that statistical report, but that was probably like a one-page flyer. So I would hope that we had a better,
It's interesting because still the page views was only 12.
wow.
So unless this report, I mean, you gave me the report, so unless it's not pulling the right data,
And
but.
I will talk to the library aware about the data and make sure that it's representing
Because
what we
I mean,
think
it really
is.
does seem incredibly low.
Seems too much of a
Out
disparity
of,
between the
8,000
opens.
people, only 12 people looked at the library thing. I mean, looked at the Gardner workshop, you had 47 clicks. So still not great, but for how responsive it was from our side.
12 views, but 47 clicks.
I would be
There
interested
there
on
could be multiple, there could be,
the feedback for the National Library Week, since you're having an opportunity drawing. And that would be a good one to measure, are your adults picking up on that?
well, I think, the first step really, until we do anything, is to figure out how to make that newsletter better. And one of the ideas we talked about also was approaching like El Camino, or to have a marketing class. Somebody has to do an internship or something to come help us design stuff.
Right.
I don't know if that's not easy.
We could be their project.
Yeah, it's not a turnkey, I'll do it tomorrow, but somewhere down the line, but,
You have a whole
I do know that one of the
high school.
okay.
One of the concerns, and I don't think we have to worry about it right now, but one of the concerns that staff raised was they said, we don't want to send too much information and, overwhelm anybody. But currently, we just do it once a month. So obviously, we could up the number of times we email without worrying about people saying, I hear from the library every day. I think I do think that those individual blasts are effective because those two gardening programs, I think they had some of the best attendance at both locations, North and Main, and they had to click through to register for the program. So our community partner was really happy with that.
I think if you make things relevant, I'm not saying email them every day, but, if you had, a trivia thing or something nice, I don't think you'd get a lot of unsubscribes. Right now, when you send out the Gardner workshop, you had 29 unsubscribed. You sent out February, you got 51 unsubscribed. So it's not huge unsubscribed. So
Right. I think we also talked and we don't want to get too in the weeds because there's just a lot of stuff when you talk about marketing. But one of the things we're interested in doing is surveying users and non-users about how best they hear about things.
right.
Right now, in my experience, I know there's social media, there's flyers, there's a lot of different avenues. That email marketing seems to be the best return on your investment, really, because people actually see that, they come to the programs, they sign up, and they usually stay signed up. But I do think that providing that information at our programs to survey how people heard about the event and then hopefully get them registered or share the registration with their friends and family might be interested, but we'll work on that. I am interested in, at some point, trying to assess not just how people in general hear about things, but, our patrons, how are they hearing about things? Are there different avenues that we can reach people without having to, have a whole marketing staff dedicated to it?
Well, the other one we brought up was, are they, ask them which social media they engage with often.
Yeah.
Right.
Because obviously the TikTok for kids,
Snapchat, actually.
see, again, yeah, so one's,
Too, yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, it's important to ask the patrons what they care about, because I'm just making this up, but nobody's on Instagram, why would we spend that much effort on Instagram? Of course, that's they're on Instagram.
The generation you're trying to hit.
Oh, it's true. Well, that's why we want to
do
see.
them all.
Yeah.
Right. With the email marketing, I think, we get both, our adult patrons. We also get the parents are really used to receiving that information that way. But have spoken with our teen advisory librarian for the Teen Advisory Council, and they're going to try to find out how best they receive their information. But, having said that, if it's a platform that the city hasn't included in the social media plan, then it might preclude us from doing that. But it'd be good information to have in case we do want to explore other avenues.
And we talked a little about doing a text campaign
Right.
as an option also for the kids.
But I appreciate the efforts in that. And I think one of the things that's nice about the trajectory we're going is that that's something that's measurable, and you can see, have we increased people? Have we increased signups? Have we increased opens? So that's hugely beneficial for us as far as something that might be kind of esoteric where you can't necessarily get the results or gauge the success of your efforts.
Do we have a particular time of year that we send out a survey to patrons?
I have to check with staff on that. Amy did have some feedback from a survey that was done, I think, pre-COVID. So I'd have to kind of revisit that and find out, did they send an email to a survey that was hosted by our website, or was it a survey software? I don't know. But that's one of the interesting things when you survey folks is that if you do it longitudinally, a lot of times you want to answer many of the same questions so you can compare, but there might be other things that we want to ask as well.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like we've just the last few months talked about several things that were like, we should put that on a survey. So.
Well, and to be honest, if we take a look, and maybe Library Aware has some ideas as far as, when we discuss like the opportunity drawing, what creative ways have other libraries utilized to engage folks in their email in addition to the design. But also I could see, and I don't want to make too much work for everybody, but you could potentially include a monthly survey and have it a different theme. And, one of the other things as far as, an incentive was we were also talking that if the friends were up for it, we could also provide gift cards for the Friends store as well. So, but we'll explore those options as far as the opportunity drawings. I have reached out to Library Aware, and as soon as I know more, I'll share it.
Yeah, that nice thing about those quizzes, surveys or whatever, like you could do, who was the best golfer ever, and Tiger Woods or Jack Nicklaus or something, and then you enter, and then, you hear back, oh, this is what the survey, and this is the winner from the entries. So those are good because you open the next newsletter to engage with it. Yeah.
Yeah, to find the answer. And so, yeah. Thank you. It's a lot of work, and people.
It was educational.
Thanks for your efforts. Yeah, lots of good information.
Yes, thank you.
I move we receive and file the marketing report.
There really is, it's an email. That's that email there, but I sent it to Dana, so I don't really.
And I didn't get the last one you sent, so we'll have to talk offline.
You got the one I just sent you tonight?
No.
Okay, so it's being stuck in.
Something, I checked my spam and whatever, so we'll have to offline.
What I'll do is I'll hand you this copy here.
Okay, that's
Okay, and then we can receive and file that.
Yeah.
okay.
Perfect. So we have a motion to receive and file the Library Marketing Subcommittee report. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Wonderful. All those in favor? Any opposed? Public comment? Any public comment?
There are no e-comments or attendees for this item.
Thank you. And all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. So that takes us on to J3, discussion and possible action on the Library Commission object.
Yes, and it is object, not objective. So I'm trying to make sure I talk about this item and the next item separately because they're obviously related, but at the same time, they're different avenues for approaching it. So the origin of the Library Commission, I believe, was the impetus was around that objective that I had submitted to you. The question for discussion and possible action is, would the commission like to revisit that object? Are they interested in revising it? And I don't think we'll necessarily create a new object tonight, but I wanted to open up that discussion. I think the first decision, and we don't have to decide tonight, but the first decision is, do you feel as though that object best describes the mission of the Library Commission, or is it something you would be interested in revisiting and maybe revising?
I think the problem is that is actually the city ordinance for forming the Library Commission. I don't like the word object, especially as it shows up by itself over there, and maybe we can come up with a different name, but I don't think we have the discretion to change what's in the actual ordinance. We can make a recommendation.
We can
but-
make a recommendation, and that would go to council, and they would have to approve it as part of it. But if the commission so desired, we could pursue that path. It's not necessarily in stone. It's a different process than the bylaws. When I spoke to city clerk and city attorney, it is immutable. So if we felt like we want to revisit or change it, we could. The only reason why I bring it up is because I know we wanted to examine the bylaws, and I wouldn't want us to go down a path where we get to a good place with bylaws and we look at the object and say, oh, we'd like to change that. That's a different process. But, we should look at them together and see, because when we, again, I don't want to move on to the next item, but they can be mutually exclusive, but they're obviously related. So,
If there is an opportunity to rephrase the object, I feel that this focuses more on the facilities, even though it's not meant to, as opposed to program and facilities, right? Just the way it's worded, it's just the placement of the words and the use of words. It's nothing major, but it just seems to, for the development, extension, and improvement of, I feel like there's maybe even adding a comma or another word or two, just
Programs and facilities.
exactly,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Do you see what I'm
I would
saying?
do.
It just
Yeah.
sounds like we're only doing something.
For the building.
A building, exactly.
And I think that's actually the way that they intended it in 1997. So again, I think our librarian is correct. If we want to expand our role, we need to go to the council, and
Right.
that's where the discussion goes. But it's reading verbatim from the powers and duty of the ordinance 2796. So.
But I do like it because we are a support system and an advisory. We're not your supervisor. I've been on a commission where we had a commissioner thought they were your supervisor, and that's not appropriate.
We're partners.
Right, we're here to help you. That's, and I do like, right, support, exactly. So I do like this because it does define us as a support system, as a, it's very clear on that. Because it doesn't say we are your bosses, it doesn't say that.
We're not executing programs, we're advising strategic guidance, community outreach, things like that. It seems like we may want to bring this up to date with how the commission has evolved. And that's along the lines that Commissioner Koopman was saying with expanding it from just the facilities. Like, clearly, we don't do much with the building itself, although we are asking for a remodel in the letter that will come from the subcommittee. So I think it's a good idea to revisit and expand this, but I don't object to anything that's currently in it. The question is, if we expand it, does that then become too precise so that in 5 years it needs to be revised again? Like, I'm sure this is intentionally general and vague.
I mean, the few things we just talked about wouldn't, I don't think, make it too specific. That would still be pretty open.
So just so you know, historically, the Library Commission has been around since about the 40s. It used to be in the city charter, and around 1994, which is right around the time of this ordinance, they pulled it out and gave the discretion to the city council to decide what to do with it. And ultimately, if we want to be more precise about what we would like the city council to adopt, because they'll look at it if we ask them to, then I think it's a great idea. And you all have more history doing this with this commission than I do at this point. So you would have a recollection of what's happening. I would change the word object to purpose on it, because one of the things we used to do when I was on historical commission is every meeting we opened up with the purpose of the commission so that we all understood what the scope of our responsibilities were, and the public would understand that as well. And I know there's a number of other commission bylaws that actually have the word object, but as I just heard, there's a different way to pronounce object. You can say object, and that has completely different meaning.
I'm wondering too, if they had the foresight of when the North Branch was built. I'm wondering if this is why it says facilities.
More focused on that, yeah. And I mean, it's actually kind of specific that it's to plan a program for library facilities in the city.
And I can't remember when the North Branch was built or redone.
It was about 12 years ago.
So
So historically, here's the other problem. As I was looking into the bylaws itself, we actually have a really good library, and it's come a long ways. But it used to be that the commission was charged with doing a gala for the library and stopgapping with money. You now have the Friends of the Library that fills in a lot of the stuff. So the role in the city has changed. And again, I think if you look around, even though Manhattan Beach is sitting on their $11 million that we have one of the best systems around. And I go to your newsletter, that's one of the things we should be promoting. But again, if you think we should be adding the word programming, we need to start that lobbying campaign to get the ordinance changed.
Yeah, so my understanding was, let's say we wanted to completely rewrite it, we would have review by city attorney's office and city manager, and we could create an agenda item to change it. The council could review it and say this looks good, and it could be a consent item for a change, or they could pull it out and have a discussion about it, and the commissioners could be there. I guess my question is effort versus reward. Do we feel like this is good, want to leave it? But the only reason why, again, I brought it up is because I wanted to make sure when I spoke to city attorney that I was heading down the correct path for both, and both have a distinct avenue for approval.
Is there a downside you perceive if we try to change this? Or update it, I should say?
I don't see a downside. The only
Or a dangerous side, I guess.
No, I don't see a downside. The only thing is that unintended consequences, as Commissioner Baracco stated, it's kind of been in operation for a while, so it's withstood a lot. But certainly if we decide to go to the next item and then after review, we come back, or we want to think about it for a while, we can, it hasn't been changed in a long time. If we felt like it was needed to be updated or revised, commission could pursue that. And I could bring back, additional information. But my understanding from consulting with city attorney was, first we would say, are you satisfied with the object as is? Would you want to change it? And if so, then we would have to come to some sort of consensus on what that change would be. And then we could move that forward.
So the question I had asked you originally is, what do you and the library staff as a whole view what our role should be in supporting you? And you're asking us what we think, but
Yeah.
it really needs to come back to how can we best support you? And can we make the definitions consistent with what would, if you say, hey, we probably shouldn't even have a commission, that would be one thing. If you say that you want us to actually volunteer hours, that would be another thing.
Right.
So where do you see what you would like us to be doing?
I think that's a really good question, and I do see commission as in every library I've worked at, the commissions and boards have been a support. And the other word that I haven't seen on here, so what I would like to suggest is, and again, it's kind of adding to the workload, but I would like to see what other libraries have kind of charged their commissions with, because it might be something, I haven't honestly really looked at that, and it might be a good idea to get some information from them and maybe provide some perspective on that. The word that I was looking for was advocate, so I'm not sure if that would be appropriate, but I do feel as though, in my experience, boards and commissions have done an amazing job advocating for not just the facilities, but the collection services programs that the library supplies to the community. Again, that's something that I have to see if that's replicated in other commission and boards objects. I'm going to have to get used to saying the word objects, but I think you bring up a really good point, and I think it'd be good to probably review maybe what some other libraries have provided as far as the charge of their commission.
So I think, and I'm actually willing to help you with it because we deal with it on the charter thing, looking at what other cities are, and most of the stuff's available online. You have a better inside view of what libraries you would like us to compare ourselves to. And that's an easy online research once we figure out, what the scope is we want of it. We're a multi-branch system, so obviously there's some things that go along with it. I think it might be a good conversation for you to have with the city manager,
Oh, yeah.
maybe at your staff meeting about, hey, if we change this, what obstacles or what considerations, because it would be nice to be able to get it into the council agenda on the consent calendar and hopefully, and not be too controversial. So he's been around a while. He knows the city better and he knows the numbers better. And most the city managers I've seen. So I would start the conversation with them if you can.
Right. I think to that point, again, since it's not necessarily a pressing matter, what I'd like to do is review and bring back at another meeting maybe some different verbiage that better reflects the object of the library commission, and I'll check and see if we can change the word object. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd say,
I don't know.
let us know the approach and how cumbersome it's going to be.
Yeah.
If it's not a lot of trouble, then yes, of course, come up with some alternatives. But like you said, it's not pressing. So from a timing perspective, maybe this is something we could defer a month or two.
Absolutely.
Knowing that we do have budget discussions coming up and some pretty heavy marketing activity.
Thank you.
Yeah, seems like we're probably all in favor of rewording. But I agree. I think if you want to come back with some thoughts on your end, then we can weigh in and draft something and go from there.
We'll do. Thank you.
Great.
I move that we table it for 2 months. Would that be enough time to come back with something?
I think so.
All June.
Second it.
Got on my notes.
Any public comment?
There are no public comments or attendees for this item.
All those in favor?
Maybe the newsletter can promote this. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes.
We could do
you.
a contest.
Yeah.
Turn it into a
Who
contest.
attended the
Who's
meeting?
here? You can win things if you come. Okay, so that takes us to J4, discussion and possible action on library commission draft bylaws.
Okay, so a couple of things on this is when I consulted with city clerk, My understanding is that the Library Commission currently does not have bylaws. What you see, what I attached was one of the latest incarnations I could find that was probably developed and put together by a previous commission. I think it was in talking to folks here at the city, it was a good place to start. We didn't want to necessarily start from scratch. So hypothetically, the avenue for this would be, we, first of all, just like with the object, we want to decide if we want to establish bylaws, because we don't have bylaws. So it's not a matter of change like the object. First, if we want to establish bylaws, currently, the bylaws have to comply with the city code on commissions and boards. So in looking at that information and these draft bylaws, there is a lot of basically duplication of some of that. So, the first question would be, do we need to establish them? And then I think from the decision tree goes a little bit differently depending on the consensus of Library Commission if they want to establish bylaws. But we are one of the few commissions without bylaws, if that's provides you with any more perspective.
Do you think having bylaws would limit us in some way? Like paint us in a box, or is it more procedural stuff we're talking about?
From reading the draft bylaws, it seems to be a lot to do with procedure.
Yeah, that's what I see is.
And I think you make a very astute point in that, you can sometimes limit yourself if you put in too much detail. That can be a problem, certainly. But if commission were to decide, yes, the commission would like to establish bylaws, we can pursue that. What we would have to do is once we got to a point to where we felt comfortable with the draft bylaws, I would then submit that to city attorney to make sure that it was had continuity with the municipal code on boards and commissions. And if there was any substantive change, I can't say the words substantive changes, I would bring it back. If they were just minor details that to get us in compliance with the boards and commission, then we would move it further for city approval on the bylaws. Any questions?
I disagree with your premise that there are no bylaws, because on the March 7th, 2005 minutes of the regular meeting of the Library Commission, there was a unanimous vote to approve these versions of the bylaws that were there, and the city clerk can go find March 7th, 2005 in the process. We have it, and the reason it's different is to adopt the bylaws would require a normal majority vote. To amend a previously approved bylaw by this commission would require 2/3 vote based on what's there. So I think this is a good day to start a discussion on it, because there are some issues, as I mentioned to you earlier before, with regard to that. But I think we do actually have bylaws already in place. Again, going back to March 7th, 2005.
Do we know the full protocol as far as the commission voting on approving the bylaws? And then does it need to go through another level of approval to make them official? Maybe that's where the discrepancy is coming.
Yeah, well, again, I can bring back more information at a future meeting, but when I spoke with the city clerk and looking in the files that the clerk's office maintained, there were no bylaws on file. So, I consulted with our subject specialist, and so there might be something more there. And, I certainly respect your findings. So it might be something we have to do some further investigation on. But again, doing due diligence and going to the city clerk, that was the direction that I received regarding the establishment of bylaws. So, to the commissioner's point, it does kind of, I would have to, you said that was, Commissioner Morocco, you said it was 2005?
March 7th, 2005.
Okay.
I'm happy to go talk to either Ms. Manzano or whoever the specialist is at the clerk's office and show them. But there's actually a resolution that was adopted, and the whole draft bylaw that was adopted in 2005 came from the city clerk's office. So this was the standard form that they wanted, and they sent it back to her when it was done. I can give you a copy of the resolution.
That would be great. I think when we, so, again, the direction I had was, from a different perspective, of not having them, and you'd want to decide whether you want to establish them. If it is concluded that we have them and we can bring it back, the ones that we have, if we do have them, then it would be a decision of whether we wanted to change the existing bylaws. But, again, if we determine that we have for a fact bylaws, then my first inclination is to consult with city attorney to make sure those bylaws are in compliance with our current code before bringing anything back for changes. That would probably be the smartest thing to do. But I think offline, we can do some more investigation and determine, it's kind of like Schrodinger's cat, but it's with bylaws, if it exists or not, but we will find out.
No, the thing that caught my eye initially was the Robert's Rules of Order. And I do know that the deputy clerk before was saying, really, we're trying to move away from Roberts and move more towards this municipal one that's being used by a lot of the cities. So there are things in here that do need to be changed, and that's one of them. But I did notice between the 2005 bylaws and this one, there's a whole section that got cut out, and I'm not clear as to why it was cut out, but it's interesting with regards to that.
Well, certainly I would appreciate if you have an electronic copy, or if you have a physical copy. I'll take the 2005 again after the meeting, and we'll follow up to ensure that we're all on the same page. And then again, I think it would be consultation with city attorney to make sure that we're in compliance with the existing codes, and then bring it back for a review and discussion.
Going back to your comment about when there's too many items in a bylaw, then it's just it's hard to follow. I mean, I'm looking at case in point with time of meetings, and we've always skipped our meetings and we went to the next month, but according to the bylaws, we're supposed to meet this next week.
There's a public holiday.
Yeah,
so-
that would be another thing that we would want to discuss, because again, looking at the chamber calendar.
Right, the Harbor Commission meets the following week.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why
So-
we've never really been able to reschedule.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and in general, I would say most organizations that have bylaws will also have a set time frame for when they reevaluate them, which if either way, if this is from 1997 or the last time it was done was 2005, it's been way too long. So, yeah.
I would also maybe suggest, instead of bylaws, maybe having policies and procedures. Those are easier to amend, add, just amend, yes. And they're just easier.
But if we already have bylaws, then,
Yeah, that's a move.
which it sounds like we do, based on those 2005 minutes.
So I think the city attorney would want to change it. I know the clerk's office was trying to update all the bylaws for all the commissions about 2 years ago. So it may still be on their timetable.
Okay. Any other questions?
Sounds like we will circle back to this when we see if we can find them.
So I move to table it for another 2 months, 3 months?
I think June is probably good if we're gonna come back around to the object anyway. It probably all goes hand in hand, so.
Well,
Make your
I'm
motion for
fine.
official for
Oh,
2 months.
I move we table this to our June meeting.
I second that.
Any public comment?
There are no e-comments or attendees for this item.
Everyone in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. All right, K, member items and referrals to staff.
I was just wondering, it's more of a question than a referral. I was wondering if we're going to do the banner for SRP this year? And if the banner will be over on the King Harbor sign.
I think the last time we utilized the banners that we had,
They were on the building last year.
right, you're right. And I think we were,
Realized they were too small for the building.
and they're kind of deteriorated, so we'd have to work with maybe fast signs and the Friends to make some other ones. I'd have to consult with Public Works because when we put them on the buildings, they have to conform with you have to actually apply and receive a permit to put any of those banners up anywhere. The interesting thing is that they were designed specifically for the King Harbor and another location was Artesia 190.
Yeah.
Inglewood and Artesia.
Yeah, and so that size was certainly not available under the guides of the permit. So you're right, if we wanted to do something like that, we'd want to pursue that. We'd want to do a redesign and then decide what location we'd want to put it on. If it is in fact, we want to take a look at King Harbor and Artesia, then that's pretty substantive.
I mean, could we instead of having three signs, we could have two signs? Could the King Harbor sign, I guess we have to see what the dimensions are, right? Moving the sign from the King Harbor sign, banner, excuse me, I'm gonna stop saying sign. Moving the banner from this King Harbor sign to Inglewood. I mean, it was, the nice thing about the Inglewood location is like, there really isn't a lot over there. So it was the only thing you saw. So I felt like it was very highly visible. I thought it got a lot of notice. I noticed it every single time. Whereas the King Harbor sign, because there's already the sign there advertising the pier, there's just a lot there.
They're both pretty highly visible. Because I pass King Harbor every day, so I'm like, oh, I know every time something's over there.
Yeah.
But I think if you felt like you only had the budget for one, then maybe you would prioritize the Inglewood location.
What about other signs that, like the stand-up ones that have kind of, that on a pole, that kind of wave, you know what I'm kind of describing, that we would put out here, that is any signage out in their permits, or is it just attached to the building?
I mean, well, so you have a good question. I think in my experience here, the library as a department and other departments have not made use of those types of signs. So it certainly, I don't know really if it's been encouraged to utilize that kind of signage on our landscaping. But we have had, requested and implemented banners, but
I am a little surprised to hear that the ones are damaged, because I only bought them 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, they were pretty weather beat up. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I mean, they were.
The intention, I think, because
Maybe the wind.
the intention of those was that they could kind of be evergreen and just used every year. Okay.
The one I was thinking of, like, it's a pole like this and then has, it comes off and there's something, and you could do like 3 in a row out there that says summer reading program, just something different. I'm sure if we go to Fast Signs, they have some good suggestions. I was thinking like that Irma Shave ads, like, are you ready for summer, stuff like that. You could do some cute stuff out there.
I forgot there's a third location. It's the one on Prospect by Paris.
Oh,
Location right there too.
you said it's Prospect and,
Prospect and Delamo.
okay.
I drive by there. That's where I live. I'm like, there's the signs.
Yeah, there's, it's where they have the permanent wires, so they can put the signs up.
And then the one on Artesia, do you happen to know the cross street or where it might be?
It's primarily on Inglewood.
It's Inglewood and,
By the gas station.
Okay.
yeah, it's on Inglewood.
Inglewood and Artesia.
Before it's south of Artesia.
It's between Grant and Artesia.
Yep.
So close to the district, the RBUSD.
Okay.
The school district office.
I could do a little more investigation on that. I don't know what the process or procedure is for getting those once designed, getting them up. I don't know if they, for example, I know Beach Life is coming up. I don't know if they do a banner for that, but I certainly would want to make sure that,
They have in the past.
yeah, yeah. So
May and September, so.
I don't, obviously don't have an unlimited number of space, but I'd want to know before going out and getting one, what the procedure is. And, if we get one and there's already, the city has like 3 or 4 events already designated for
Right.
those spaces, then that could be an issue. So I'll have to follow up with staff and find out what the procedure is and fast signs as far as the cost. And again, I do agree it should be evergreen, but I think they were pretty, and it's unfortunate here that they were not that old, but
Yeah.
maybe it's the way they were folded and saved. I mean,
Well,
maybe it's the way
that's
they
a
were
little bit
stored. I
my
don't
question of like, if we buy them again, let's make sure they get stored properly so that
Right.
we don't have to keep replacing them.
Yeah,
And I think we don't realize how big they are, actually.
Oh,
they are
they're
really
huge.
big.
They're really,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So small in the sky, but.
And I would look at other opportunities that don't require permits on our building, something fun that's
I know we
different.
talked about the police, have the
Marquee.
I like the ones that they put on the side of the road, but they can change the wording, so those are
Right,
easy
that's true,
enough.
yeah.
And I know for sure there's one on PCH, but I think there's at least one other one.
I can definitely follow up on
Cellophane ones
that.
on the windows as well, that you can see through, but.
The window
people
wraps.
can see inside and see a design or something or a sign.
I really like
Those-
the idea of something right here at the building, stop in for the summer reading program and
I think that falls into, is marketing.
Put it back on you.
There we go.
So this now leads into a previously non-existent referral, but now I'm curious. I feel like we've talked about this before. What's the possibility of having it the library marquee? Just like a sign where we can have a digital sign of some sort. I don't know. I mean,
Like
we
the
have.
high school has?
Like that, well,
Put it
not
on your
not the
wish
high
list,
school has,
yeah.
because that one's falling apart. But something, yes, but something like the high school has.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know that would be, from what I understand, the sign itself is not expensive, it's the installation and the labor. That's the pricey part. But I feel like we have so much real estate in terms of, where we can put literally the sign anywhere.
Right.
Maybe that goes on the budget list.
Future budget,
Yeah.
future budget request.
As far as going back marketing committee wise for the signs, I'm happy to, we
We can talk offline.
offline a bit.
Yeah.
Talk to the different price or companies, stuff like that.
Yeah, I'd want to find if in fact the goal is for summer reading, find out if we actually have, if we created a banner, if there would be available space, if it's not already predetermined that other events are going in there, so.
Well, don't create the banners if you
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
post them.
absolutely, yeah.
But there's other ways we can
Yes.
promote it, so then that's the creative ideas of, having that, talking to the police department, having something up.
The
stuff
other
like
option
that.
would be just the lawn that's right here, because then you could just do it could be a regular banner, but instead of
stakes.
having to get the
Yeah.
permit to put it on the building, you just stake on both sides.
Well, that's
and
what I was
put it on
thinking
the
with
lawn.
those three things, the
Right,
permit
similar-
thing
similar
is our
idea.
own lawn that is out there that.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know, like they have the menorah there, the Christmas tree, whatever. Does it all have to get permitted? So even though it's on our campus.
I certainly would need to get, at least our administration approval for it, but I'd have to investigate if there's a permit process.
Yeah.
Maybe have someone look into
They
that.
can't get one in the chambers right underneath the camera. I got stuff.
Did you have a question?
No, are we through with the
No.
signage?
Close signage, yeah. Go ahead, you can do your.
So, yeah, I had one other idea. As you all know, we lost a very important person to us, Mayor Brand, in February of this year. And while his memorial is already passed, I thought it might be good to maybe think of something we could do from the library perspective to honor him. Maybe something in the windows in front, or maybe book collection or reading lists or something along those lines. So I don't have it completely thought out, but I thought maybe the library staff might have some ideas on how to really,
Done some nice things in the past where we got like their favorite book or like a, like, I know he was an avid surfer, like a book on surfing, and then we can put a plaque where the book is in the library and
Yeah.
have kind of an,
For the summer reading, you guys have the awards for whoever reads the most. What if you call it the Bill Brand or something like that?
might be nice.
yeah, there's a lot of options.
Talk to Hilaire about that.
And you have that whole display case up in front that you can do something with.
It's a nice idea there. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what the schedule is for those front display cases, if those are already predetermined, but that might be a nice tribute for a month or so.
Oh, in one of the front display cases, one of the letters has fallen. Like it,
Oh, okay, thank you.
it's not a complete sentence right now.
Yeah, we need to have like a display of his favorite books or something too, that's like that.
Thank you for bringing up the digitizing. It's nice to see it's moving forward with it and the county is dealing with it. I'm going to bring up the aging of the fines. I really would like to see that. And I did talk about it with the treasurer. It seems like the fines is one of those things that doesn't make it actually officially onto the city books, but if it's collected, it's supposed to end up somewhere in there. So it seems that it lends itself for transparency to at least have the aging there. And again, I don't even know what the annual collection of fines are. Are we talking $2? Are we talking 10,000? But it's something that I think we do need to, at least for transparency's sake, especially if the city's going to start getting tighter with the money that it's going to be dishing out. So I would love, again, if you have the ability to kick out an aging report, as well as now maybe the annual collection amounts, because I don't even know if we're making an effort to collection. I mean, is it de facto fine free? And there's really, you're making an effort to collect or not.
Right. And I do think that, I certainly think that that's important. I think that is a really big project. And right now, being understaffed as we are, I think I'm happy to try to follow up on that. But honestly, it hasn't been as big a priority as getting us onto electronic timesheets, to getting an Open Plus going, and then the daily, running of the library, which has been made challenging with Aaron's departure. We're working on evaluating and again getting that position up and running, but it hasn't fallen off my radar, and we hope to have something back soon as far as a status. But the one thing that I'll say is that in the report that I submitted regarding fine-free, over time, the collection of fines has decreased. I did create a graph and provided numbers over several years, and it was more than, I think, 10 years, where at some point it was like 70,000, and now it's gotten down to the like 10 to 20,000. Part of that is due to the automatic renewals that were instituted before I arrived. And that funds, as well as the meeting room funds, go to the city's general fund, not right back to the library budget. So it's important to note that all of that, as it should, goes back to the general fund.
Yeah, and I'll just keep on bringing it up every month.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
The other one, and I liked when we had that meeting where we did this, but maybe have something on the days that we have a lighter agenda than today. Just have a general book discussion and invite people from the public to come up and talk about books that they've gotten from the library that they've enjoyed. And it kind of engages the public into what we do. And it seemed like a very fun thing that we were doing when we were comparing notes on books. So
I actually thought about that when I walked in today. I was like, if the meeting's not too long, we'll do it. But we had a lot of stuff on the
we have a
agenda
new
tonight.
book that's checked out over
Yes.
there. I mean, it's like,
Well, it's about halfway through.
Nice.
so
Still mixed reviews on this one.
yeah, even if we can get more people from the public to come in and just talk about their books, we can snip out the stuff for your marketing stuff. We can even put it in the newsletter, the
Soundbites.
video clips, which will
If
increase
they
it.
don't have to physically be here, they can just visit be here via e-comments
Yeah, they can come
or.
on in.
And then we can record that even better.
Then someone will finally have an e-comment.
Our goal this year.
And then I wanted to know if you had
Put that
something
in
you
the
wanted to
object.
share with us, because you've been sitting very.
You had mentioned at the meeting the other day, you said, oh, the library commission is somebody, and because I was on the public art commission.
Oh.
I thought, "Let's do other commissions too." So I'm gonna attend all
Great, well, we have a
Love it.
couple, we have an opening over there.
of them. And there's 4 openings in the public art commission starting in September. So
Oh, my goodness.
Well, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you
got a
very much for
visitor.
being here.
That's
Yeah.
right.
I think we have the nicest commission, but that's just me.
No real arguments, I mean.
That's all I have.
Any other referrals to staff? All right, any final e-comments or comments at all?
There are no e-comments or attendees for this item.
Okay, and I think
Oh, wait,
we,
I have one question.
oh, we almost made it.
Almost made it, but I think I saw something that said one of our future meetings is being canceled. Is that like July or something like that?
Not to my knowledge, we'd have to take a look at the calendar. I know there's some holidays coming up, but we haven't formally
Okay.
reviewed or
July
canceled.
1st is a Monday,
Mm-hmm.
so
Okay.
we're fine on
That
the
shouldn't
holiday.
Cause us a problem,
It's
yeah.
always, the problem is always, it's
Is it Labor Day?
always Labor Day. Sometimes it's New Year's.
Okay, I thought that, go ahead, finish up with you.
I'll miss you all next month.
I think we'd
Have
be
fun.
ready to
Thank you.
adjourn if someone wants to make a motion.
I make it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Wonderful. We are adjourned at 8:55.
I have to drive the